All right, let's dive deep today. We're breaking down Antonio Brown's wild interview on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, this one was a ride.
It was. Joe Rogan, those conversations can go anywhere. And with Brown, well, it really did go everywhere.
That's the thing with Brown. You get to hear from a guy who's been on top of the world and then, had it all come crashing down. And it's often for the same reasons, which makes it so fascinating.
For sure. So where do we even begin? Well, Brown goes right into some heavy stuff like CTE. He brings up those tragic deaths. Demaryius Thomas, Vincent Jackson, both former teammates, both gone because of CTE.
Yeah, and it hits hard because he actually saw what Thomas was going through. Not just the physical side, but the mental struggles, too. It's a side of professional sports we don't often talk about, the hidden costs.
Right, and it's not just the physical toll either. Brown really talks about the mental and emotional stuff athletes face when they're out of the game. Like, your whole identity is wrapped up in being a pro athlete,
Right.
and then suddenly it's over.
Exactly. That's got to be tough. And, Brown, speaking from experience here, he talks about starting therapy and how much it helped him. Getting that mental clarity, figuring out all those bottled up emotions, and relationships, too. That transition after football impacts everything.
Okay, so let's get into Brown's social media, right? This whole CTS thing he's got going on, call that shit, and the hashtag put that shit in movement. It's almost like he's taking back the word crazy, but there's something deeper there, don't you think?
Totally. It's kind of a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Using humor to deal with all the stigma surrounding mental health, particularly in sports, where you're supposed to be tough all the time.
Yeah, and he even jokes that maybe all that craziness is just the CTE. Dark humor, for sure. But it makes you think, what are we calling crazy? Are we too quick to judge behavior that's different?
Exactly. He makes you wonder if there's more to the story, and that's a question we should be asking about everyone, not just athletes.
So life after football for Brown has been anything but boring. Making music with Kanye, starting his own music label, and then crypto. That's a wild turn.
The Kanye stuff is fascinating. Brown describes these early morning meetings like 8 a.m. with ideas just flying everywhere. It sounds chaotic and brilliant,
Yeah.
Just pure creative energy.
It gives you a different side of Kanye, and Brown doesn't hold back about Kanye's quirks either, like that whole swastika t-shirt thing.
He mentions trying to advise Kanye, telling him to maybe dial it back a bit. It's interesting, even though he admires Kanye's genius, Brown's not afraid to be real with him.
Right. And then there's Brown's own crypto venture. He created his own coin, called it Unrug Pullable. Basically, he wanted to make a coin that wouldn't scam people, which in the world of crypto is actually a pretty big deal.
It's kind of ironic. You've got Antonio Brown, this unpredictable guy, trying to create stability in the most unpredictable market out there. But it shows another side of him, too. He talks about the risks, warns people not to get scammed. He compares buying those meme coins to playing roulette. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's a gamble.
Okay, here's where it gets interesting. We see a different side of Brown, something most people probably don't expect. He talks about starting this 7-on-7 flag football team for kids in Miami and Tampa.
Yeah, this philanthropic side of him doesn't always get the spotlight, but it's there. He wants to give back, create opportunities for young athletes. It's something that clearly matters to him.
And it's not just football. He talks about getting a volleyball league going, too. It's all about community for him, giving kids a chance to chase those dreams, to reach their potential.
Right, and that's powerful coming from a guy who's been through so much and challenges the perception, right? He's not just that controversial figure in the headlines. He's a guy who wants to make a difference.
Now, hold on to your hats, because things get wild when Brown starts talking about politics, social media, even modern dating. We're talking designer vaginas, attraction, censorship. Nothing is off limits.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back. He talks about how divided things have become politically, how we've lost that common ground.
And he's really into Elon Musk and what he's doing with Twitter. He loves the idea of people being able to speak their minds freely, even if it gets controversial. Brown's all about free speech.
It's a good reminder that you don't have to agree with everything someone says to find value in their perspective. Brown can be a bit much, for sure, but he makes you think. Maybe see things from a different angle.
All right, fitness fans, listen up. Because Brown drops some knowledge about his training style.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not your average gym routine.
He's got this whole ground-up philosophy, build strength from the foundation, even the feet. He even shows Joe Rogan this crazy exercise where you use your toes to grip a towel.
He's big on plyometrics, too. Balance ball work, rotational exercises for core strength. And he's not a fan of the traditional deadlifts. Says they put too much stress on the lower back. He's all about functional strength, the kind that helps you move in real life.
Makes sense given his style in the field. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. We've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to unpack in Brown's interview with Rogan.
And we're back, diving deeper into Antonio Brown's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience. Last time, we left off talking about Brown's unique training style. He's got some interesting ideas about how to get your body and mind in peak condition.
One thing that really jumped out was this idea of, what did he call it? Preeminent recovery. It's not just about icing after a workout. It's a whole way of thinking about how you recover, how you feel your best.
Yeah, and he connects it to mental and emotional well-being, too, not just the physical stuff. He's a big believer in saunas and cold plunges, says it helps flush out those toxins and reset your system.
He described that feeling of going from a super hot sauna to a freezing cold plunge as being brand new, like a total body and mind reboot.
Makes sense, right? Think about the pressure those NFL players are under. Constant training, media scrutiny, the need to perform. It's got to take a toll. So Brown's focus on recovery, it's about thriving, not just surviving.
He also talks about nutrition and getting regular blood work done to know what his body needs. Not what you'd expect from an NFL star, but it fits with his whole approach. It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Absolutely. Taking control of your health instead of just waiting for things to go wrong.
Okay. Back to life after football. Brown talks about this new project he's really passionate about, starting a 7-on-7 flag football team for kids in Miami and Tampa.
This is where you see that side of Puckle that wants to give back. He talks about providing opportunities for young athletes, helping them compete, travel, broaden their horizons.
Yeah, and he mentioned starting a volleyball league, too. It's not just about the sport itself. It's about building community, giving kids a chance to chase their dreams, just like he did.
It's inspiring, honestly, to see him putting in the effort to make this stuff happen. It challenges that image of him as being all about himself.
So let's shift gears a bit. Brown's social media. Love it or hate it, you can't deny it gets people talking. Those posts, they're something else.
Oh, yeah, they definitely get reactions. He even says people call him up like, what are you doing? Especially when he pushes the boundaries a bit.
But he owns it. He says it's meant to be uncomfortable, thought-provoking. He uses language that can be offensive, no doubt. It sparks controversy.
Yeah, like that term he uses, I won't repeat it here. It's definitely offensive to some people. But he claims it's not meant that way. It's more about, making people laugh and challenging those norms, I guess.
Whether you agree with it or not, you got to give him credit for being himself, even when it means facing backlash. He's not afraid to speak his mind, even if it ruffles some feathers.
And that leads us to something Brown feels strongly about: free speech, especially on social media. He's a huge fan of what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter.
He believes everyone should have the right to say what they think, even if it's wrong. He brings up the example of Rashard Mendenhall, his former teammate, the guy who got slammed for tweeting controversial stuff about 9/11.
It shows how easily people can get shut down for expressing their opinions, even if they're unpopular. And Brown's point is that we should be encouraging open dialogue, even when it's tough.
Yeah, even if it makes us uncomfortable, right? That's how we learn from each other.
He also expresses concern about how much time kids are spending on social media, the impact it's having on them.
He's all about finding that balance. Encourages parents to limit screen time. It's something a lot of parents are struggling with these days.
Totally. It's about finding that middle ground, enjoying the benefits of technology without letting it take over.
Let's get back to Brown and Kanye. Their collaboration sounds intense, like a constant explosion of creativity.
Brown talks about those 8 a.m. meetings, all those ideas flowing, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. He admits that Kanye sometimes goes too far.
Like the whole swastika t-shirt thing?
Yeah, Brown says he actually told Kanye to tone it down, to focus on spreading love instead.
Despite Kanye's eccentricities, Brown clearly respects him. He even got a Donda Sports chain as a gift from Kanye. It shows how close they were.
It's a glimpse into a world we don't usually get to see. The dynamics between these two creative forces, the brilliance, the chaos, the potential for things to go off the rails.
And speaking of visionaries, Brown talks about his admiration for Elon Musk, too. He loves that Musk isn't afraid to break the mold to push boundaries.
He sees Musk as a true innovator, someone who's changing the world.
All right, let's talk crypto again. Brown didn't just buy into it. He created his own coin. He wanted to make something stable, something that wouldn't scam people.
Yeah, that whole unrug pullable thing. It's pretty bold, considering how risky the crypto world can be. But it shows Brown's entrepreneurial spirit, He's not afraid to try new things.
He gets that the crypto market is volatile, especially with those meme coins. He even compares it to his time in the NFL, saying he wants to empower people in the same way he felt empowered on the field.
It's interesting how he connects those two worlds, the risks, the rewards, the need to be smart about your moves.
Now, back to Brown's commitment to community. He's really passionate about supporting young athletes. He talks about creating that 7-on-7 flag football team, the volleyball league.
It's more than just sports for him. It's about giving back, providing those opportunities he might not have had growing up.
He emphasizes the importance of having someone who believes in you, who pushes you. He had those people in his life, and now he wants to be that for others.
It's a powerful message. It shows that even someone who's achieved as much as Brown, someone who's been in the spotlight for both good and bad reasons, still recognizes the value of community and mentorship.
Now let's talk about Brown's outlook on life. He's all about finding your purpose, going after what you love, no matter what other people say.
He hates the idea of settling for mediocrity. He thinks everyone has the potential to do great things. It's about embracing who you are, defying those expectations, and striving for excellence no matter what you're doing.
He also talks about the importance of hard work, discipline, resilience, facing those challenges head on and coming out stronger.
It's a message of self-belief, taking ownership of your life, going after those dreams even when it's tough.
He doesn't shy away from the fact that there will be haters, doubters, setbacks. He even jokes that the haters are a good sign. Like, if they're talking, you're doing something right.
It's a reminder that not everyone will support you, but you gotta stay true to yourself. Sometimes that negativity can be the fuel that pushes you forward.
Let's get back to Brown's training philosophy. Remember that ground-up approach. He really believes in building strength from the foundation. He even shows Joe Rogan this weird exercise where you grip a towel with your toes to strengthen your arches.
It shows how much attention he pays to the details. He's always thinking outside the box. He's also big on plyometrics, balance ball work, rotational movements, all about that core strength and agility.
Yeah, and he's not a fan of deadlifts. Thinks they put too much stress on the back. He prefers exercises that mimic the movements you do in his sport. It's about functional strength, preventing injuries.
It's a different way of looking at training, not just blindly following what everyone else does. It's about understanding your body and tailoring your workouts to your specific goals.
And it all ties back to his preeminent recovery philosophy. It's not just about how hard you train. It's about how you take care of yourself afterwards, how you fuel your body and mind.
It's a holistic approach, right? Everything is connected. You can't neglect one area without it impacting the others.
Brown also gets real about mental health and seeking help. He's open about his own experiences with therapy, says it's helped him process his emotions, gain clarity, even improve his relationships.
It's huge, especially in the world of professional sports. He's breaking that stigma, encouraging other athletes to prioritize their mental well-being. And he's right, it shouldn't be seen as a weakness.
He even compares it to physical therapy. Says if you hurt your hamstring, you see a therapist. Why wouldn't you do the same for your mental health?
It's a simple analogy, but it makes you think. We need to normalize the idea that everyone struggles sometimes, and that getting help is okay. It's a sign of strength.
Okay, let's talk about Brown's views on society. He seems worried about how divided things are, polarized, like we've lost sight of what connects us.
He thinks social media makes it worse. Those echo chambers where you only hear opinions you already agree with. It's like we're all stuck in our own little worlds.
He's all about having those tough conversations, even when they're uncomfortable, engaging with different viewpoints, even if you disagree.
He also criticizes that tendency we have to judge others. He thinks we should be more understanding, more compassionate. We all make mistakes,
He even talks about cancel culture, thinks it's gone too far, believes people should be allowed to screw up without being punished forever. It's a complicated issue.
It's about recognizing that we're all human, even when we mess up, and that forgiveness is important.
Brown also talks about the future. He's excited about technology, all the advancements in AI, space exploration, renewable energy.
He sees the potential for these things to solve some of our biggest problems, but he also recognizes the risks.
Like, what if we lose jobs to robots?
Yeah.
What about privacy concerns, the spread of fake news? It's like he's saying, be optimistic, but be cautious too.
It's a balancing act, figuring out how to navigate all this new technology and making sure it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Brown also emphasizes the importance of education. He wants young people to be curious, to never stop learning. He thinks education is the key to creating a better future.
And mentorship is huge for him too. He talks about how his own mentors helped him. Now he wants to do the same for others.
It's about paying it forward, sharing your knowledge and experience. helping each other navigate life's challenges.
It's about building each other up, creating that support system, that sense of community.
Well, that's a wrap on part 2 of our Antonio Brown deep dive. There's a lot to unpack here, a lot to think about. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into Antonio Brown's talk with Joe Rogan. It's been a wild ride so far.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. Training, charity, his take on everything from politics to designer vaginas.
One thing that keeps coming up is discipline. And I don't just mean physical discipline, like what it takes to be an NFL star.
Right, he's talking about a whole mindset, a way of approaching life, your goals, whether it's training, food, money, distractions, it all comes back to discipline.
He really believes that discipline is what got him to where he is, helped him stay focused, avoid those temptations that can trip up young athletes, especially when they have money and fame.
It's about making choices that align with your goals, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Saying no to the things that might feel good now but could hurt you in the long run.
Brown also has some strong opinions about the media, especially how they portray athletes. He thinks they focus too much on the negative, blowing things out of proportion and ignoring the good stuff.
Yeah, he feels like it creates this distorted image of athletes. Like their performance on the field or their drama off the field, people forget they're human beings with their own struggles and triumphs.
He even suggests that the media contributed to his own downfall, shaping that public perception of him as, this unreliable troublemaker. It makes you wonder how much of what we see in the news is actually true and how much is just a story the media wants to tell.
It's a good point. We should be more critical of what we read and see, especially when it comes to athletes. There's always more to the story.
Now, Brown keeps coming back to this idea of mental health. He's really open about his own journey with therapy, how it's helped him work through things, improve his relationships.
And it's a big deal for him to talk about it so openly, especially in a field like pro sports where vulnerability is often seen as a weakness. He's basically saying, it's okay to not be okay. And it's even better to get help when you need it.
He compares it to physical therapy, which I thought was interesting. He says, if you hurt your leg, you go to a physical therapist. Why wouldn't you do the same for your mind?
It's so simple, but it really makes you think. We need to stop treating mental health differently from physical health.
Okay, let's talk technology. Brown seems to have this love-hate relationship with it. He's excited about all the possibilities, but also worried about the downsides.
Yeah, like with AI, space travel, renewable energy. He sees how they could solve big problems, but he also recognizes the potential risks. Job losses, privacy issues, the spread of misinformation.
It's like he's saying, we need to be careful. Be smart about how we use technology. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Exactly. We need to be aware of the potential consequences while still being open to the possibilities.
Brown's also a big advocate for education. He wants young people to be curious, to learn as much as they can. He sees education as the foundation for a better future.
And mentorship is important to him, too. He talks about how his mentors helped shape him, and now he wants to do the same for others. Passing on that knowledge, those lessons.
It's like paying it forward, creating this cycle of support, helping each other grow and navigate all the ups and downs of life.
It's a beautiful thing, honestly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Antonio Brown, it's clear he's a complicated guy. A lot of talent, a lot of controversy, but also a lot of depth.
You might not agree with everything he says, but you can't deny he makes you think. He challenges those assumptions, makes you question things.
And that's what makes this interview so interesting. It sparks a conversation, forces us to see things from different angles.
It's a reminder that there's always more than meets the eye, and that sometimes the most valuable perspectives come from the people we least expect.
That's all for our deep dives into Antonio Brown on Joe Rogan. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and maybe even learned a thing or two. Who knows, you might even try that toe towel exercise Brown was talking about.
Just be careful not to pull a hamstring.
Thanks for joining us.